Imagine you are sitting in a pressurized tin can, hurtling through the silent, frozen ink of the cosmos at 24,000 miles per hour. Behind you is a world of green forests, warm oceans, and everyone you have ever loved, shrinking into a tiny, fragile marble. In front of you is a desolate, gray tomb called the Moon. You are 200,000 miles from help. There is no rescue team. There is no backup. There is only the hum of the electronics keeping you alive. Then a sharp, metallic bang echoes through the hull, and the hum stops. In an instant, the cabin lights flicker. The needles on your gauges drop to zero, and you realize with a sickening jolt that the vacuum of space has just begun to breathe you in. This wasn't supposed to be a graveyard, but in that moment, the universe decided you were never coming home. From the outside, the Apollo 13 mission looked like the pinnacle of human achievement, a sleek, white spear of technology designed to conquer the heavens. It was beautiful, a testament to the sheer will of a species that refused to stay grounded. The Saturn V rocket was a masterpiece of engineering, a controlled explosion that carried the hopes of a generation. But beneath that polished white paint and the heroic smiles of the crew lay a terrifying reality. Space is not a frontier to be tamed. It is an environment that is actively trying to kill you every single second you remain within it. And for the three men inside Odyssey, the beauty of the stars was about to be replaced by the cold, suffocating horror of the void. You are Jim Lovell, looking out the small, thick window. You expect to see the majestic curve of the moon, but instead you see a thin, ghostly white frost venting into the darkness. It looks like a veil, shimmering in the sunlight, but then the realization hits you like a physical blow. That isn't frost, that is your oxygen. Your life support is bleeding out into the vacuum, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. But here's the problem. In space, losing your air is only the beginning of the nightmare. As the command module loses power, the temperature begins to plummet. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, creeping rot. The warmth of the electronics fades, replaced by a biting, invasive chill that seeps through your flight suit and settles in your bones. The walls start to sweat. Moisture from your own breath begins to condense on every surface, turning the interior of the ship into a damp, freezing tomb. You are trapped in a dark, wet box, shivering so violently that you can barely flip the switches that might, just might, keep you breathing for another hour. But it gets worse. Physics is a cruel master when you are stranded in the deep. Without the main engine, you are no longer a pilot, you are a passenger on a ballistic trajectory. You are falling through the dark, and your momentum is carrying you toward the far side of the moon. As you slip behind the lunar horizon, the Earth vanishes. All radio contact is severed. For those moments, you are the most isolated human beings to ever exist in the history of the species. There is no one to hear you scream. There is only the crushing weight of the lunar shadows and the knowledge that if your calculations are off by even a fraction of a degree, you will miss the Earth entirely and drift into the infinite blackness until your air runs out. And this is where things change. The transition from a lunar landing mission to a survival horror story is complete. You have to move into the lunar module, Aquarius. It was designed to support 2 men for 2 days. Now it has to keep 3 men alive for 4. The air you are breathing is turning toxic. Carbon dioxide levels are spiking, and the filters aren't designed for this. You are slowly being poisoned by your own breath. You feel the headache starting, a dull throb behind your eyes, the first sign that your brain is being starved of the very element it needs to function. You are forced to build a makeshift breathing apparatus out of duct tape, plastic bags, and cardboard scraps. Your life depends on garbage and luck. But that's not even the worst part. The environmental danger is one thing, but the psychological horror of the unknown is another. Every time the ship groans, you wonder if a seam is about to pop. Every time you see a flash of light in the distance, you wonder if it's a piece of the ship breaking off. You are living in a state of sustained, high-voltage terror. You can't sleep because the cold is too intense. You can't eat because your stomach is knotted with dread. You are staring at the earth, so close you can almost touch it, yet separated by a barrier more impenetrable than any wall ever built. The scale of the danger is impossible to grasp. NASA engineers on the ground are working frantically, but they are playing a game of chess against a grandmaster who doesn't play by the rules. They are trying to solve equations that shouldn't have answers. They are trying to stretch a dying battery to its absolute limit. If a single wire shorts out due to the condensation coating the interior, the entire ship becomes an incinerator. You are surrounded by water and electricity in a vacuum, a combination that defies every safety protocol ever written. The history books tell us they made it, but they don't tell you how it felt to be inside that capsule during re-entry. Usually, a spacecraft returns to Earth as a triumphant hero. For Apollo 13, it was a desperate, scorched prayer. The heat shield was the only thing between the crew and a 5,000-degree plasma fire. Because of the damage to the ship, no one knew if the shield had cracked. As the capsule hit the atmosphere, the friction turned the air around them into a blinding, roaring furnace. For 4 minutes, the world waited in silence. 4 minutes where the heat should have melted the hull. 4 minutes where the parachutes should have failed. And even in those final moments, the universe seemed to be pushing back. The ionization blackout lasted longer than any other mission in history. On the ground, the controllers stared at their screens in agonizing silence. They expected to hear nothing but static forever. They expected to find 3 charred bodies floating in the Pacific, because the math said they shouldn't have survived. The physics of the accident said they were dead men the moment that tank exploded. But they did come back. They emerged from the sea, pale, gaunt, and haunted. They had seen the face of the deep and lived to tell the story. Yet the fear remains etched into the legacy of the mission. It serves as a grim reminder that we are not the masters of the cosmos. We are intruders. We are soft, liquid things trying to survive in an environment of radiation, vacuum, and absolute zero. We look at the moon and see a beautiful, glowing lantern in the night sky. But for the men of Apollo 13, it will always be the place where the lights went out. It will always be the moment they realized that for all our technology and all our bravado, we are tiny sparks in a vast, uncaring dark. The universe was never meant for us. It does not care if we breathe. It does not care if we return. We are permitted to stay as long as our machines hold together. And as Apollo 13 proved, those machines can fail in the blink of an eye. We are voyagers on the edge of an abyss,
and the only thing keeping us from falling in is a thin sheet of metal and the hope that the dark doesn't notice us.